I've had some time to think about what I would like to do into the future with my videos, how I would like to approach improving my skills. Um, I've been listening to other content creators for years now. Um, Most of them speak in English. I've never even tried to find any content creators from my country uh, simply because I'm not interested. And over the years, listening to other people, I've realized what I should be focusing on. I should absolutely make sure that my pronunciation is as clear as possible, considering the fact that my accent is already twisting the words in certain way. So I need to make sure that I'm not falling into the bad habit of cutting off uh, the endings of certain words, which is a habit some American and both British English speaking natives have, which did make it quite difficult at the beginning for me to understand English speaking content. So these are just some thoughts I had before recording this audio, and I wanted to talk a little bit um, about the difference between playing games in English and in Czech. Obviously, when I first played Neverwinter Nights, I had pretty much no idea what English was back then. We had some compulsory education uh, for English, even in grade school, but it was barely at the level of the simplest possible conversation, so that would obviously not allow me to play and actually enjoy a game such as Neverwinter, where conversations are basically the biggest part of the game, of the story. So I've played it in my native language, and that stuck for a few years before I was finally too impatient to wait for translations from English for my favorite books, and I just had to improve. Uh, MMOs had a huge impact on that as well, and games in general, like Neverwinter. Now I can't even imagine playing in Czech, um, especially some specific words to games in general. Like for example, fireball translated to my English is just making me clench my feet into fists. It's just not something I'm able to stomach at this point. So that's one of the reasons why I am mostly living in English these days. Uh, because of my hobbies and what they entail, and those are just not viable for me in my own native language. That's There are certain exceptions. For example, poetry uh, from France or from Russia, because during the times when the translations were made into Czech, we had one of one of the best translators from these two languages available at all. so it wouldn't really make sense that much. A bit less for French, but for Russian it's widely acknowledged that the translations are picture perfect. So those are just mentions, honorable. Uh, Now for a bit more general on the Neverwinter side, I've actually uh, started my nth playthrough. Um, fi- Finally getting myself the enhanced edition, which I'm not exactly a fan of the concept, but here it seems like revitalized the community quite a lot. There are still people making mods, and I should specify that for a game like Neverwinter Nights, these are not exactly just some small improvements or small changes. They are entire modules that the player can play through. They are entire stories, and some of them actually eclipse the basic game in terms of the amount of content and hours played, or even the time spent on creating them, because Neverwinter Nights comes with a toolset that allows this type of immense content creation for the game, and the game is still alive. There are servers alive where people roleplay using either the original um, BioWare distributed content or the player made content, and the community is quite active, especially since the release of the enhanced edition. So I started my new playthrough, scored myself from right from the beginning in the prologue 2 dates for the Academy Prom night, and then my then both of my dates swiftly decided to fall uh, against weak goblins rather than go with me. So that stunk a little bit, but but I am really enjoying myself even after so many times I've played through this game. It's still something that brings me just pure joy. So I'm having fun uh, finding out uh, that there are mods for the companions. Now I can actually interact with them quite a lot more than it was possible in the original campaign. And well, that's about it. I think it's time for continuing the where I left last time. And we are beginning the third chapter. We found out that Ribet has betrayed us. For now, small spoiler. And our new handler is the co-handler from the second chapter, Aringend, and he tasked us with finding something that's called words of power. Um, for now, we don't exactly know what it is, what's the purpose of this, but well, that's our quest. So off we go. This time we are beginning our new adventure in Beveren as well. As always, the main hub city, some side quests, some hints for our main quest. For example, we get to deal with some orc problem. They've been pestering the forces, ours, and interrupting our supply lines. So that's one thing we need to take care of. Then we get to meet uh, Altura Sarptil, whom we met in the first chapter, and a representative of the many-starred Cloak Enclave, and she sends us for a small fetch quest, bringing her some books. So it's another thing. Then we get to help a local druid, local trading post, and then there is a trial going because there has been a murder, and our old acquaintance Nurik from the Temple of Tyr asked us to resolve the matter. The better we do, the better the reward, and then we get to speak with Lillian, who knows a bit about the sports of power, and was able to get us into a world inside a snow globe where we can resolve a long ongoing conflict and get our hands on one of the sports of power that our enemies are doing their best to claim before us. And that's the basics of what we can do in the well, and the next stop would be Coldwood, but I think I'll keep it a bit shorter this time. Already spent quite a lot of time on the general stuff, and I think I'll be able to finish the third chapter in the next two videos, and I'll probably catch up with my own playthrough, so that will probably replenish my Phallic memories from like a year ago. It was the last time I did my playthrough of this game. I'm quite expectant towards these. I'm now, I would say, enjoying it. I was a bit nervous, as I think it's understandable considering the fact that, again, I'm not exactly used to listening to my own voice in English. So doing these now is just like something I do in my spare time, whenever I have time, and thinking just purely about something that brings me joy is immensely enjoyable. So yeah, next time, third chapter.